This is Governor Thomas Ford, who was the governor of Illinois, and who is one of the people that, when you read section 135 of the Doctrine and Covenants, it really condemns Thomas Ford, which is sad and ironic also, because early on, Thomas Ford, we have songs, jubilees, cheering Thomas Ford when Joseph Smith, for example, when the Missourians tried to extradite him, and Thomas Ford helped Joseph Smith be cleared of all his charges. We actually sang a jubilee song to Thomas Ford. And Thomas Ford seemed to have some virtues, but he seemed to have some vices also as a politician, strengths and weaknesses. And one of his major weaknesses was, I do believe, that he allowed Joseph Smith to be killed. And I'll share with you why in a second, why I say that. But back to this link where he himself sees some connections. In section 135, announcing Joseph's death, it says, the broken pledges of the governor and state of Illinois, that I'll talk about in a minute. When Praise to the Man was originally written, it didn't say, long shall his blood, which was shed by assassins, plead unto heaven while the earth lauds his fame. The original words were, long shall his blood, which was shed by assassins, stain Illinois while the earth lauds his fame. The church later changed those lyrics to not offend all of you who are watching this from Illinois or maybe from Illinois. It's probably good that that was changed. But there was hard feelings towards Governor Ford in the state of Illinois because of Joseph's death. Well, why? Well, look what Thomas Ford writes in 1854, a decade after Joseph's death. And he says, he feared that in one day in the future, someone will make the name of the martyred Joseph ring as loud and stir the souls of men as much as the mighty name of Christ himself. Little did he know that people like me would be on these videos and going worldwide and doing exactly what he said, that people will proclaim the name of Joseph as a prophet. And then look at this. He's kind of talking, in my opinion, or writing a little tongue-in-cheek or a little mockingly. He says, Sharon, Palmyra, Manchester, Kirtland, Far West, Adam-on-Diamond, Ramus, Nauvoo, and the Carthage jail may become holy and venerable places of classic interest in another age, like Jerusalem, the Garden of Gethsemane, the Mount of Olives, and Mount of Calvary to the Christian, and Mecca and Medina to the Turk. Now, what's interesting is, I think he's writing this mocking because these places are in the middle of nowhere, and the Latter-day Saints are a poor minority religion who had been kicked out west. But probably you watching this video, how many of you have been to Far West or Nauvoo or Carthage jail and traveled there, made pilgrimage to these holy places? I've never seen a better prophecy than from Governor Ford there. And then look what he writes. And in that event, the author of this history feels degraded by the reflection that the humble governor of an obscure state, who would otherwise be forgotten in a few years, stands a fair chance, like Pilate and Herod, by their official connection with the true religion, of being dragged down to posterity with an immoral name. Thomas Ford links himself as the Pontius Pilate in the story, which is fascinating. And one of the reasons why Governor Ford, and I might touch on this, but since I'm talking about him right now, I'll just mention it. One of the reasons why Governor Ford is condemned so much in the martyrdom of Joseph Smith is because Governor Ford had the power to protect him. And he pledged to protect him when Joseph submitted to the charges in Carthage jail. But Governor Ford allowed the mob to attack Carthage jail. Now, that might be a misread on my part, but I think there's some historical evidence to support it. One of the ones is that in 1854, the same year that Governor Ford wrote his history, John Taylor, who was one of the 4 people in the room with Joseph when he's killed, Joseph and Hiram are murdered and killed. John Taylor and Willard Richards are 2 apostles, the only other 2 in the room who survive, to act as a witness of what went on. John Taylor, in 1854, 10 years later, also writes a recollection or gives an account of the martyrdom. John Taylor's 1854 account, he talks about the whole thing and everything that led up to it. And I'll talk about what he says led up to the martyrdom. He says something interesting. When they submitted the charges at Carthage, John Taylor went and met with Governor Ford. And he said to Governor Ford that a mob was going to form and going to kill Joseph. And Joseph said this to Governor Ford. And Governor Ford said, oh, the men aren't that cruel. They wouldn't do such a thing. But one of the things that's interesting that he says to John Taylor is Governor Ford says to John Taylor, you guys should have never had the city council vote to destroy the Nauvoo Expositor, the printing press that I'll talk about as I take you through a narrative history of what led up to it. And John Taylor talks about how why their decision was made. And then Governor Ford says something interesting. Not that the press shouldn't have been stopped. Governor Ford said, quote, "I would have got up a mob to destroy it, and that would have cleared the city council." Or in other words, as city leaders, you wouldn't have been liable, Joseph as mayor and some of these other city councilmen. Now, Governor Ford didn't realize it, but he may have been showing how he operates. He's like, if you guys had a nuisance and you didn't want to deal with it officially on a state level, then you just turn a blind eye and you let a mob take care of it. And then you're not held liable. That sounds very familiar to exactly what Thomas Ford will do to Joseph Smith on June 27th, 1844, knowing that he has a nuisance and a problem in Joseph and the Latter-day Saints and a mob that wants to kill him. And Governor Ford is going to turn a blind eye and let the death happen.